repairs. The man on the other end of the line didn't hesitate. "Oh, we've already written that up. This isn't the first time we've dealt with someone pulling a stunt like this," the technician said. "You're looking at about 15 grand in repair costs, and because it was deliberate, she's gonna be on the hook for all of it." Tom smiled to himself. That was exactly what he needed. Later that day, as he made his usual stop at the local feed store, he overheard something that made his blood boil. Karen, oblivious as ever, was holding court in the middle of the store, laughing loudly as she regaled a few other customers with a heavily exaggerated version of her heroic actions. "I mean, come on, was I supposed to just sit there and let my property value drop because of some ugly wires?" she said, shaking her head. "He should be thanking me. I made his land look better. Besides, what kind of farmer relies on electricity that much anyway? Doesn't he know how to work the land the old-fashioned way?" Tom clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay calm. It was almost amusing how confident she was, completely unaware of what was coming her way. He pulled out his phone and discreetly recorded her little speech. When she threw in a few more gems about how she had single-handedly improved the neighborhood, and how Tom is just overreacting like a big baby, he knew he had exactly what he needed. He sent the recording to Steve that night. The lawyer responded almost immediately with a simple message: "This is gold." The next morning, Tom woke up to the sight of a county inspector's truck pulling up his driveway. The man stepped out, clipboard in hand, and introduced himself as Mitch Sanders. "Got a call from the sheriff's office about some possible property violations," he said, flipping through his notes. "Says here you mentioned Karen's fence might be encroaching on your land?" Tom nodded. "Yeah. When I first bought this place, I had the boundary markers checked. That fence of hers wasn't there back then. She put it up a few months ago, and I'm pretty sure she didn't bother checking the actual property line." Mitch adjusted his hat and gestured for Tom to walk with him. They strolled over to the fence line, where the inspector pulled out a set of boundary maps and measured the placement. After a few minutes of double-checking, he let out a low whistle. Well, well, well. Looks like she's about 3 feet over your property line." Tom raised an eyebrow. "And what does that mean?" Mitch grinned. "Means she's technically trespassing every time she steps on this side of the fence. And if she built anything on this land, that's another legal issue for her to deal with." Tom chuckled, shaking his head. This just kept getting better. By the afternoon, the first official legal notice had been delivered to Karen's house. Tom didn't have to see her read it to know she was fuming. He could practically feel the rage radiating from her property. Sure enough, barely an hour later, she stormed across the yard, waving the papers wildly in the air. "This is insane!" she shrieked, her voice carrying through the open space. "You're actually suing me? Over some stupid power lines?" Tom leaned against his truck, arms crossed. "Not just the power lines, Karen. The property encroachment, the damages, the trespassing. You really did a number on yourself." Karen huffed, throwing her hands up. "This is harassment. I'll take this to court and you'll regret it." Tom smirked. "That's exactly where we're going, Karen. See you there." She stomped off, slamming her front door so hard that one of the porch decorations fell over. Tom shook his head, already looking forward to the day when she'd realize just how badly she had miscalculated. A week later, the court summons arrived. Karen's attempts to delay the case had failed, and she was officially on the hook for damages. But she wasn't done fighting yet. Word spread around town that she had hired a lawyer, some big-shot real estate attorney who probably had no experience in criminal or property damage cases. It was a last-ditch effort, and Tom knew it. The night before the hearing, Tom sat at his kitchen table, reviewing everything one last time. The surveillance footage, the recorded confession at the feed store, the power company's report, the property violation notice, every single piece of evidence stacked against Karen. When he finally went to bed, he slept soundly for the first time in days. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. The courtroom was packed. Small-town cases rarely drew this kind of crowd, but the whole town had heard about what Karen had done, and they wanted to see how it all played out. Tom sat calmly at the plaintiff's table, his lawyer, Steve, flipping through a folder of meticulously organized evidence. Across the room, Karen was seated beside her lawyer, a slick-looking man in an overpriced suit who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. She, on the other hand, had that same smug look on her face, as if she still believed she could talk her way out of this. The judge, an older man with years of no-nonsense experience, entered the room and everyone stood. Once the proceedings began, Karen's lawyer tried to dismiss the case as a neighborly dispute blown out of proportion. He painted Tom as an overreacting farmer who wanted to punish a woman for simply wanting a better view. Tom remained silent, waiting for his turn. He had no doubt the facts would speak for themselves. Steve stood up, calmly but firmly laying out the case. He played the security footage, and the room went quiet. There was Karen, in the dead of night, bolt cutters in hand, deliberately slicing through the power lines. The smirk on her face was unmistakable, even in the grainy footage. Then came the recording from the feed store, Karen bragging about her actions, mocking Tom's farm and loss of income. The look on her face shifted from smug to stunned. Karen jumped up, pointing a finger at Tom. "That's taken out of context," she shrieked. "I was joking." The judge didn't even look at her. He turned to the power company representative, who confirmed the $15,000 repair bill. Then came the county inspector, explaining how Karen's fence encroached on Tom's land. By the time Steve was finished, the weight of the evidence was undeniable. Karen's lawyer tried to fight back, but it was useless. The judge leaned forward, hands clasped together, and stared at Karen. He reminded her that tampering with power lines wasn't just a minor infraction, it was a serious legal offense. She had knowingly damaged critical infrastructure, trespassed on private property, and showed no remorse. His ruling was swift and brutal. She was fined $50,000, ordered to cover all repair costs, and forced to remove her illegal fence immediately. Karen's jaw dropped. $50,000? You can't be serious, she wailed. I don't have that kind of money. The judge gave her a cold, unimpressed look. Then I suggest you find a way to pay. With that, he slammed the gavel, and it was over. Tom walked out of the courthouse with his head held high. Justice had been served, and for the first time since the ordeal began, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. Karen, on the other hand, was fuming, ranting to anyone who would listen about how unfair the whole thing was. No one seemed to care. The town had seen her for what she was, and there was no sympathy left for her. Within a week, Karen put her house up for sale. She had no choice. The fine, combined with the lawsuit and legal fees, had drained her finances. Rumors spread that she tried to negotiate her way out of the payments, but no one was willing to help her. She had burned too many bridges. Tom didn't see much of her after that, but he did get a good laugh when he heard that the person who bought her house was an engineer from the power company. Ironically, the new owner planned to install even more power lines, upgrading the infrastructure for the entire area. Karen had fought so hard to remove them, and now they were coming back stronger than ever. With the settlement money, Tom made improvements to his farm. He installed solar panels, ensuring he would never be at the mercy of the power grid again. He reinforced his fencing, added security cameras, and even expanded his operations. What started as a disaster had turned into an opportunity, and he wasn't going to waste it. The final time Tom saw Karen was the day she left town. He happened to be driving by when she was loading the last of her things into a moving truck. She caught his eye, and for a brief moment she looked like she wanted to say something, an insult, a parting shot, maybe even an apology. But then she just huffed, turned away, and climbed into the truck. As she drove off, Tom couldn't help but smile. He had won, and no matter where Karen ended up next, he had a feeling she wouldn't forget this lesson anytime soon.